Hello and welcome back, guys, to another Improvement Season podcast. With me, Pascal Steve. On the other end, it is Steve Hall. We just came out of the Christmas holidays. Steve arrived back home and was already complaining about the sleeping situation. No, we've both been complaining about this. So, of course, we start the Improvement Season always with a little bit of chit-chat. And this time we are talking about sleeping, getting older, and complaining about sleeping outside and not in a typical environment.
I feel bad to say that I was complaining. I am so pleased to be back in my own home environment. It's not like it was terrible there, but it's just small things. Like the bed isn't as big. I don't know what size. I can't remember. I think it's a king. I think that's what they have. Wait, a queen. I don't even know which ones are bigger and smaller. Do you know that?
I think Steven, so he is one of my athletes. He's working in a mattress store and potentially even becoming the facility manager, I think it is. Anyway, what I want to say, he definitely knows his stuff about mattresses and all that kind of stuff. So I would assume it's kind of 180 is queen size and king size is maybe 2 meters or 220 even. Or maybe it is queen size that it's 2 meters and king size 220. I have no idea, as you can tell.
I mean, unfortunately, in my head, it makes sense that king's bigger because it's male. And so I think bigger and kings are seen as, no, they're not really seen as more important.
You have to be careful though in 2022.
I know, exactly.
Talking about this kind
Equity
of stuff.
and all that.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever size it was, it's a smaller bed than what me and Charlotte have. And that should be fine. Or maybe it was just a double bed actually, because there's double bed, right? I think it was just a double bed. So that's like, I don't know. Most adults, I think, often have like a double bed. Like no one sleeps in a single bed after being a kid, do they?
I mean, it needs to be a double bed because otherwise I'm getting very annoyed by the movements of Katie and all that kind of stuff. I also don't get it when couples have like a huge kind of blanket that is then for both of them, that they share. Those type of blankets?
Just like a duvet, right?
I don't know if it's called that, but it's kind of like, especially in some hotel rooms, it's like that the entire bed is just with one blanket and you're just
that's a normal bed, no?
Yes, there is definitely something to it.
You have your separate ones.
I mean, yes, exactly. And those kind of huge blankets that you have when, I don't know, the other person is moving. And then when the mattress is also one, then it's getting, I don't know, I'm married, but still, I don't want to share my mattress and my blanket with my wife.
So you have separate mattresses as well?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. So we've the mattress we've got is fantastic. It's the free one. This is the best thing I've ever got off Instagram as like a freebie. I can't even remember I think it was Bedford Bed sent it to us or something like that. It was amazing. The mattress is amazing, actually. It's so good. It's so great. I'm saying how good it is and I can't even actually, I got it like 5 years ago or something. I don't even know, but it's very, very good. So whenever we go to different places, like I'm always missing that mattress. But then, me and Charlotte do share a duvet actually. But it's a good idea to get separate ones because I am always hot. So I always want a thinner one anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just makes complete sense, especially also when it comes to separate mattresses as well, because you are so much heavier. You may then sleep on the side, whereas someone who's sleeping on their stomach maybe needs kind of a different mattress overall. So,
We're
it just
right
makes
with
a lot
this
of sense.
one, but I don't know. Charlotte's not a picky sleeper. She sleeps like very well under she can have like a coffee like a couple of hours before bed. She's asleep. Like she can do it whenever she wants.
To be honest. Honestly, you know those type of people who can just fall asleep wherever they want.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just zoning out, and whoops, they're gone. No matter where they at and what's going on around them. I would love to be like that, but unfortunately, that's not the case.
But yeah, whatever size bed it wasn't big enough for me, Charlotte, and then Ada sleeps in the bed with us, so she sneaks in the middle, and surprisingly feels like she takes up just that little bit of extra room that I needed. So the sleep hasn't been the best, so it was amazing to be back in our bed. So I actually feel much more refreshed than I have the last few days.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just home comforts, like actually sitting down in my chair and like being in my office and like, again, getting back to like some check-ins this morning. It's just nice kind of again, we're creatures of habits and routine. It's so nice to get back into that.
Yeah.
Not to say it wasn't amazing, like to be with Charlotte's family and to spend time with them and kind of play some games, eat some different foods and stuff, and be by the ocean, the coast.
Yeah.
I definitely would love to kind of be able to get a bit more of the seaside and see the ocean and the crashing waves a little bit more, and that fresh air versus London, just like building works and fucking cars and
Ambulance,
emergency services. Yes, exactly. So it's not like pretty noises at all. But yeah, anyway, how was your holiday period?
Nothing spectacular, to be honest. Katie was then actually caught by the bug with the virus that Tony had. She was very feverish, very much out here over the past days. For her, it was kind of a drag because she still wanted to participate, and last year we couldn't really celebrate as a family, and this year she just kind of dragged herself through all of those days, but it was still lovely. And once again, so I was cooking on the first day, which is in Germany we are always celebrating on the 24th. And then on the 25th, it's most of the time that you're then going to visit your family. Like kind of, for me, it was the parents-in-law, and then we were there. Also had there a lovely dinner as well. And overall, what I've realized once again is that the food that you're eating is actually relatively clean if you want to make those decisions. So for all of the past 3 to 4 days, I even took some pictures for Instagram because I just wanted to share those portion sizes and also the food that I had in front of me, because it was always a lean piece of meat with some kind of starchy carbohydrates such as potatoes, or what I was doing was knödel. It's semmelknödel, which is kind of out of buns, eggs, and milk. And then kind of it looks like a snowball or a tennis ball, that size, right? And then this alongside with some vegetables and then a sauce. So in itself, a very, very good dish. And the only problem that I can see is that people are just overeating because they don't really control themselves. Because after one plate, I was definitely full. And I said like, all right, that's it. And I didn't want then to have another dessert or take a couple of drinks and have another portion. Yes, it was tasty. But what I ended up doing was saying like, all right, can I get something here in a Tupperware so that I can eat of this here over the next couple of days? And that's what I did. And then over the next 2 days to follow, I was still able to feast from that dinner meal. And it was great. And this way you're chucking it up into pieces. You're not overeating while also participating at the event and not feeling or looking like a weirdo, and not feeling off as well or misplaced, and not feeling the discomfort of declining food. Because at some point, everyone will understand that you will be full, right? And that's totally all right if it's after one plate and you're saying like, I'm stuffed, right? If you were to say like, I'm stuffed after not even having eaten anything, of course, I can understand why people are giving you the looks. But after this once again made me realize that most of the time, it's more about going in there with somewhat of limitations and it's not limitations, but kind of a controlled environment of like saying, hey,
self-control.
Yeah, I'm just going to have like one plate because that's probably what I would do anyway, like at home, instead of having like 2 portion sizes. Because why? And everyone could tell like very rationally that 2 portions or plate sizes are most of the time too much and unnecessary for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with the like Christmas dinner or roasts. They can be like actually really decently low calorie if you want them to be, because it's loads of vegetables, like with tons of veggies. Like you said, hopefully you can get some lean cuts of meat. That's not always, I don't know, it depends what people are having in that regard. But I mean, even if it's a slightly fattier cut of meat, you're getting some protein that's not kind of crazy calories. And I think where people get into trouble on Christmas Day and like the surrounding potentially, it's like it's the snacking continuously out through the day. It's the kind of continuous alcohol potentially through the day. It's the desserts upon desserts upon desserts. Yeah. But I like what you mentioned there in terms of even with like desserts, it's not like I think this is where people have that kind of on and off switch again. They're like, oh, it's Christmas and these desserts are just here now. I have to have all of them. It's like, oh no, like Pascal, you save some, or not necessarily dessert, but you save some of the meal and you consume that over the next days. It's that kind of like, I struggle when people don't have the ability to, what's that called? Portion control. They just have none of that. It's like all or nothing. And that's a quite unhealthy kind of relationship with food. So it's great that you can kind of just be like, okay, I've had enough now. I'm going to save this and have this in future. Like that's a very good relationship with food. And it's when people don't have that and they kind of have that all or nothing mentality, that's when I think it can get dangerous.
Yeah, it also helps if you're that type of person who hates wasting food, which is I'm that way. I hate it when we are buying stuff that is just kind of rotting away in the kitchen or in the fridge, rather. I hate it because that is just a form of privilege of an overconsumption that is, I think, unjustified, unwarranted, and unnecessary. And it just is one of those bad things of the Western society, of just like that massive amount of food waste that we are generating because we are buying things that we don't need but wanted in the initial moment. And if you're that one of those people who wants to consume most of the food, you don't have to do it in one sitting. You can do it like this. Hey, you grab as much as you can for then the next couple of days. And if then you're not getting to it and you can't consume it then that's unfortunate, but that you still tried your very best to get the food in. It's not that you have to get fat in order then to save the planet or so, right? Because Katie's mom, she had like a dessert. It was kind of like a sorbet or so, right? It was a blend of like a mousse and a sorbet, citrus sorbet. And we got it with us back home because most of the people didn't really fancy that. And we had it in the fridge and it was simply too much food overall because we were already full over the past couple of days due to just like the normal dinner. And we didn't really get in to eat that. And that's all right then. But still, we offered them to take something with us because we knew that they are not going to eat it as well over the next couple of days. It then also makes you probably feel more comfortable in splitting things up so that you are not running risk of having that, I don't know, negative connotation of like, now we're wasting food. I will never, as you said so, Steve, never really get to eating it again until the next year. And this way you have it kind of, it's like a dose of like, I don't know, alcohol consumption or anything else, right? Instead of having everything at once, chucking it up into pieces, and it's probably then much, much better than having everything in one go. And that applies to so many things, as we both know, that the dose makes most often the toxin. And especially also here, if you're over consuming, it's most of the time because you maybe have like a FOMO sensation or think that you don't want to waste something, or you think that you need to be polite and actually having more of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I also agree completely with the food waste. I hate, it's the worst when also you buy something thinking it's going to last several days. I don't know, like blueberries or something. They just start going off, or raspberries. Like there's just a little bit.
Those too. It's
and they
crazy.
Just start going off super quick.
No, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt you there,
That's
because
right.
I'm having blueberries and raspberries each and every single morning to my quark, and I can't buy them in bulk.
No.
Simply because after 1 to 2 days, they're all already kind of rotting away in your kitchen fridge.
Are you not into frozen? You
I
prefer them
am,
fresh?
but it's not the same, because if you're then microwaving it, they lose a lot of their... Yeah, exactly. They lose a lot of their kind of water as well, or the fluids. It's not the same.
They're just... I have them frozen, but that's literally because... like I don't care, and they're just, I'm kind of eating them just because they're there. But I do frozen blueberries for the reason that they just go off. And actually, I think frozen blueberries are maybe a bit cheaper, but fresh ones, that they're different. Like if you defrost them, they're so squidgy and like whatever. I don't know where I'm going with this now. Oh yeah, so my Christmas, it was I'm not nervous, but I'm interested to see what my scale weight is going to be because there was a lot of like. It felt like a lot of guesstimating of food and or like just like eyeballing it, trying to stay mindful. And I think I probably underate, but I did my best to try and stay on top of things. Even eating like I just had a huge slice of Christmas cake. I was like, that was probably 700 calories worth of Christmas cake just to like, because again, when you're in someone else's environment, it's so hard to like I don't have my foods there, and there's not just supermarkets that are open because it's over Christmas. And it's like, I can't just take myself out and just leave like Charlotte with whatever, taking care of Ada, and because the dogs don't get on and we have to manage that anyway. So I was just like, wherever I could get food, I was like, I would never eat this much Christmas cake. In fact, Christmas cake it's nice enough, but I'm not that fussed. I was just like, you know what? Charlotte's mum cut me and she was like, that's a bit big. Maybe you could probably split it in half and eat it another day. And I was like, I need to eat it all. I was just going to give it to me. I'm just going to have it all. So yeah, I'm a bit nervous in some ways to step on the scale and to be down because I just have to get back on top of things. But it's like your post on Instagram where you said like, and this is not the way that you intended it for people to have undereaten over this period of time. Not that I'm saying I necessarily did, and certainly not by a lot. But if you did kind of overeat, like you can either learn from it and try and take that forward, or you can kind of brush it under the carpet a little bit, know that it was kind of Christmas, it's a special time of year, you enjoyed it, and get on with the plan. And that's essentially what I'm doing here, is just like get on with the plan. I couldn't have really done anything better over that period of time, to be honest. So we'll see where things land, and it's a few days.
I think that was so well said and such a powerful message there by the end, Steve, or like that he said that you did everything that you possibly can do in that situation, and in the end that you're not really concerned about it. Because like if it's just 1 or 2 days out of the year, it doesn't really make a difference. As long as you're ticking off the boxes for when it is that you can do that. This is basically what we have been preaching over the past couple of months, years now, of just focusing on trying to take control of your environment when you can. And if you can't, then allow for some flexibility because you did your due diligence. The only problem arises if you're also allowing too much flexibility when you don't have to allow for flexibility, and where you can tick off the boxes like 100% of the time, right? And that doesn't mean that it should be a stressful environment or you're overly rigid and disciplined. That's not what I think that many people misinterpret what it is that people are then saying. And funny enough, with the scale weight, for me personally, it was the other way around. Because of my caloric intake, I was stepping on the scale and I was 1.5 kilograms heavier. And I don't really feel more bloated or so. I can feel, though, that I'm more heated up quickly and my veins are popping rather quickly. And I would very much assume and attribute it to the sauce, which was very, very salty. Especially the meat and salt that I did on the first day, which I also then had, I think 2 days ago, another time. It was very salty. So very much attributed to this. But at the same time, I did everything that I possibly can. I enjoyed the time there. I was mindful about the food choices. I mindfully didn't overeat or overindulge. And if it then ends up being like this, in a scenario where I want to gain anyway, so be it, right? I didn't really gain 1 kilogram of fat or so. Maybe it was then a couple of grams of fat. I don't even think that it was a couple of 100 grams of fat. A couple of additional grams of fat. What does it matter? I'm in the process of gaining anyway, and this will be lost super quickly again.
Yeah. No, I think that's, again, really well said. And I think people will appreciate hearing us and our experiences go through it as well, because as ever, we're at opposite ends of the spectrum, so there'll probably be people at either end, although neither of us are cutting right now.
No.
And actually, as an example, the majority of my clients weren't cutting, and it's not actually, I think I don't know who it is, but maybe part of the fitness industry, and maybe we're part of the problem because we're obviously talking about it, but I think Christmas is kind of overblown in terms of like, it just becomes such a content production thing. Like everyone in the fitness industry who is a content producer has talked about Christmas. It's like for some people, it's not really like, for us even, it's not really that big a deal. Like if we weren't doing this podcast, or if we weren't like fitness influencers, I wouldn't really be probably thinking about it as much as what we are right now. Nowhere
near.
I
have the feeling though that it was this year was a little bit better in terms of the recommendations and also content around this. There was a time where people were just like bombarded by the same kind of recommendations.
It's because you get, the thing I kind of disagree with is when I see people telling people what to do. And it's like, you see, I don't know, you get one end of the spectrum are like, it's Christmas, let your hair down, drink, like eat all the food, don't train, whatever. And then you have the other end. It's like, actually, you very rarely get this end where it's like, no, you have to stay on point, blah, blah, blah. Actually, very rarely it's there. It's like more of this end. But it's like so many of us, that's so far away from anything we want to really be doing in terms of like extremely overeating, drinking, not going to the gym. Those things actually bring us a lot of joy, and sticking to the plan for me, and I know for you, Pascal, and lots of the listeners, brings us a lot of joy. Like, I love ticking the boxes and being like, yes, another day being productive, depositing the pennies towards my overall goal. And it's like, again, if we had 2 meals in front of us, one was maybe marginally more tasty, but this one was goal driven. It was ticking the macros that I needed. And this one was like quite off. I'd go for this one because I'm like, this one's tasty and it ticks my like fitness goals. Awesome. And you don't always have to make that choice. And sometimes these can be more imbalanced than that. But it's like, I had a client who I kind of gave him the option. I was like, right, we're dieting right now, but if you want to just take kind of Christmas dinner as a mindful day of eating, kind of obviously just kind of walking us through as we have in terms of being an adult, don't kind of binge your face off and things like this, you can do that. And he was like, no, it was going to bring me more kind of happiness and kind of joy, and like I'm going to be happier knowing I've hit my numbers. So I'm just going to kind of diet through that day as I normally would. And obviously not every athlete you are like, okay, that's fine. Because some people, they do that to a detriment to themselves when you're like, no, you need to actually, it has to be an individualized approach, which is why I hate this, the kind of black and white statements of you must do this or this. It has to be individualized to the person. But he's a very mature person. I know he's got his mindset right. He's able to be relatively flexible with his macros right now and whatever, so he'll be able to like have some of the things and enjoy the moment with people, and it won't take away from things. I was like, that's awesome. And I think people should also be respected in, if they want to go to the gym or whatever, they can go to the gym. Like, there's nothing like, if I needed to train on Christmas Day, I love to go train on Christmas Day if it was like one of my kind of sessions, because it's fun, it's quiet, and like you get to have some you time away from like the crazy chaos that's whatever happening with everyone else. So yeah, it's kind of, I think it's important just to take this as like an individual approach, and there isn't one perfect way to do things.
Yes. No, absolutely agree. And I think this is also one of the reasons why I've been always vocal against something like intuitive eating, or if it fits your macros. Not that those things are inherently bad. As with everything, those things are just concepts and ideas. And it's up to the person or the people to decide how they are going to make use of those. And often then people are the ones responsible for abusing it, or using those tools incorrectly, or misinterpreting what it stands for and everything. And I think that especially with what it is that you said there, that most of the time what's being promoted is like, hey, love yourself. It's fine to just like eat whatever. You're absolutely golden, right? And then afterwards, you're just getting back into being yourself. While it sounds very, very amazing and appealing to the vast majority of people, and that's probably also one of the reasons why it gains so much traction over on social media, it's often an unrealistic approach for the vast majority of people, because this is exactly one of the sort of reasons why they are unhappy with themselves and their looks and their physiques, and then allowing them to do this, right? I mean, everyone is free to do whatever they want, but recommending or suggesting like, hey, promoting it, of having this sets a negative, for me at least, a negative connotation to it, even though that they are trying to promote it as something positive, of like, hey, going off plan is great. You know, you are treating yourself, you are rewarding yourself. And in reality, that is not the message that you want to deliver. But as with so many other things on social media, those extreme approaches or things that we would actually, if you really sat down and think about it, that sounds good on paper, is something that we wouldn't really promote most of the time. Of course, there are individuals who are like, yeah, this works for me. But is it something that then is applicable to the vast majority of people? No. And that's also something that we see in real life examples. And it's also something for us, right, Steve? We've been doing things such as the nutritional side of the spectrum since such a long time. And that's where I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, where I was even saying like, the way that I'm eating right now, I could get away with not tracking anything and still manage to lose fat, gain muscle mass, all that kind of stuff. But this is close to 10 years, for me personally, taking care of my nutrition. I've been doing this since the age of 14. And it's now over 20 years that I'm actually mindfully thinking about what it is that I'm eating and stuff. Right? And this is so often then forgotten. And if you're then putting this onto other people who have maybe just like no experience or maybe just like 1 year of experience, it sets them up for often damage, being confused maybe even, and also being lost because they don't really see the results that they want. They are then maybe even overeating, and they don't understand it because you are the role model who shows them that this should be possible, you know?
As soon as you said that, it kind of reminds me of like post-show, and people are like, what are you going to eat post-show? And it becomes a huge thing. Like after your show, like, aren't you going to reward yourself? It's like the first thing that comes into our mind is like, no, the reward is getting to stage and like sticking to the process and seeing the amazing like shape that I brought. I don't need to reward myself with food. Like, like I know food can be rewarding, but to like take the stage to reward yourself with food, it's like you don't need to do that to eat that food. You could just go out and eat that anytime.
That is a perfect example, Steve, honestly, because then you make the post-show period or the food afterwards as a bigger event than the show itself or the journey itself. Yeah. So everything that you've been working for was not for then stepping on stage and rewarding yourself there, but also like, hey, now finally I'm out of the shackles here. All right, let's go for it, you know?
I can eat that donut and look shredded, and people can be like, how's he eating that donut and how's he shredded?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, those photos.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I do worry though that I was actually I don't even know what podcast it was. I was listening to this woman on her podcast, and it was just one I randomly found, and she was talking about how social media has influenced kind of how she even does things. And so she has literally decided to go out with her friends and dress up just to take photos for social media. Like they go to a bar because it has a nice place to take photos. They dress up and they take photos of each other, and then they leave because all they wanted were the photos for social media.
Really? I mean, I can understand this.
I wonder if people compete literally just because they want to be like, I want to be like this kind of guy or girl and just put this on social media because I'll get likes for that. It's like, man, that's scary if that's your reason to get on stage. I mean, I doubt many people make it for that reason.
Yeah, but I can see that there are definitely people out there like this. It wouldn't really surprise me, because why would otherwise people Photoshop their pictures? Right? It is because they don't do that for themselves, because they know themselves that they have manipulated those pictures. So what is it that they are doing? They are kind of fishing for then appreciation of their surroundings and environment. And because we are identifying ourselves so much nowadays through social media, or maybe not you or so, but a lot of people, I can definitely see that some people do this, especially with those more, you know, those traveling pictures and also traveling videos over on social media, you know, those very famous places, I don't know, in Bali or so, there's a cliff and everyone is getting there to just like take a social media picture or so. I've heard from people who are living in the mountains that there are trails that are just like for professional hikers because they are so dangerous, and people, influencers, travel there, and they needed it's now restricted to actually get there without a license, because so many people passed away in just getting there and taking some selfies and stuff like this. And this is just in the mountains. And I would very much assume that there are so many places across the world where it's like this, a dangerous situation that is then underestimated by a lot of people just for then getting some kind of great pictures and not being aware the dangers of maybe then nature even in general, you know? Yeah. So if people are doing this, I can definitely see why they would go into a restaurant and take a picture there and then leave.
Yeah, it's kind of like the dangers. It's like the dangers of contest prep and getting that lean, and they have no kind of plan of action post-show or something to manage that, and they just base it off what they see online. If they go that route, man, that could just lead people down a bad rabbit hole completely. I didn't mean to kind of move us that direction. But with your training, I think I saw you in a hack squat. Does that mean you had to do some training sessions away from your usual gym?
Yeah. So it's funny because you said that you would have loved to actually go to the gym on the 24th or 25th as well. And that's basically
I went on the 24th.
Oh, right. Yeah.
25th was a rest day. So
yeah. So what I did was actually I planned it. And I think that I even mentioned it last time that the 25th, my gym is closed. And also on the 1st, the gym is closed. And that fits me quite nicely because I need to extend the mesocycle.
Yes,
but for me personally, there was not really that much to do. For the vast majority of people throughout the day, things are actually a little bit quieter with family things, right? You're not obliged to do a little bit of work, and I still did it. I still did a little bit of work because for me, it was kind of more like a normal day. So I went onto the gym on the 24th, got a very good Christmas pump going, and then on the 25th, my usual gym was shut down or closed for that day, and I felt great. And I already pre-planned it the day before, and I said, I will get up in the morning, and if I feel like it, and if it's earlier than I thought it's going to be, because I'm just getting awake very early in the morning, just normally. And I know that the other guys are sleeping in sometimes to 7 to 8. And if I'm getting up at 5, I can easily make it then to the other gym. And I got up, felt great. And I thought like, all right, let's go for it. I know that there's a good food involved like later in the day. So let's take advantage of the situation that you're feeling good. It's quieter at home, and then I traveled to the other gym, my old gym, where they have a hack squat. And yeah, then I went ahead and did a hack squat session, which was great. It's simply the best leg machine, in my opinion.
Hacks, yeah. I mean, when you get a good one, is that hack squat, how did you like that versus the ones we had in Das Gym?
This one is the best, in my opinion, that I've ever used so far, because it has the range of motion that I need. It can go so low that I would even reach the limits of my range of motion, which is, as you know now, after the Das Gym, so the Vienna trip, I can go far more down than you guys. And it has that. And also then the ankle, I don't know, it's just a smooth hack squat machine. The only downside is that it has only one pin where you then can put plates on it. So, and I already am near the top of that range. So
Good
what it is
ego.
that I need to do is kind of like, all right, I need to make it harder for myself. So really going all the way down, pausing it slightly at the bottom, and then coming up. And yeah, it's, for me personally, that is the smoothest hack squat that I can have access to, which is great.
What do you know the brand of it?
It's Gym 80.
Gym 80. Oh, I don't think I've ever really tried any Gym 80 stuff. But yeah, now the more gyms I've tried and like tried different equipment, like I'm feeling those slight nuances within like the tiny divergences that you do feel. And I'm appreciating different brands and trying to remember the names of them and things like this. So that I have some awareness. I don't know. It's quite nice kind of getting into that stuff. But yeah, it's nice. And I think you said, did you have previous logbook data to be able to know whereabouts your loading should be? And then you did it via that?
No, exactly. I went by the previous data that I had, and that was already ages ago. But you can then always extrapolate a little bit. If you have collected over several years, and maybe then also have several entries of like your body weight at that current time, where you've been at, like either it was a cutting, gaining phase, maintenance phase, and then you're going in there. I was kind of relatively aware of what load I should aim for. I did it, and it was very, very smooth. And I surprised myself because I didn't really expect, because I haven't done this in a very long time, that it moves that smoothly. And yeah, I was very surprised by the performance, and it felt great, and I was having a good session. And then I went, of course, to parents-in-law afterwards and was allowing myself a little bit of a feast. Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
I love it when that happens, where you surprise yourself. It has to be for someone of our training age. It has to be like probably years to like surprise ourselves at how strong we are. But I haven't barbell bench pressed in so long, and I'm just considering reintroducing it just for variation, but also because barbell bench press is barbell bench press. Yeah. Like different hack squats are different Smiths, whatever machines, but barbell bench press is a barbell bench press.
Yes.
So it will give me an idea, like if I can do like 100 easy for like 10 to 15 reps, like that already from the top of my head is like, that would be great. Like that would be and if I can get into like just working in the hundreds plus kilos, like then I know my chest has really come on some. So I'm kind of tempted just to do it for that reason. That's why the barbell lifts are quite cool in that regard, because again, a barbell lift is a barbell lift.
When was the last time that you squatted, Steve?
Man, good question. I don't think it's been a couple of years for sure. How about you?
Same here. I mean, I think like a short primer phase where I then did do it, but it was such a short period of time that I can't really say that this was like proper squatting for a longer period of time. And I started to just appreciate how things such as Smith machine squats, hack squats, they do feel. It feels just much smoother for me personally than any of the kind of heavier compound lifts, to be honest.
I have a hard time, even with Smith machine squats, not letting my glutes take over. They just want to get in there. It's kind of like pulling movements in my biceps. For the longest time, my biceps just wanted to take over. And I think that's why I have, part of the reason why I like decent biceps is because whenever I used to do like pull-ups or anything when I was younger, I remember getting off and just being like, why do I have hugely pumped biceps and forearms? They were just like so pumped. Whereas I didn't really think about that when I was squatting. But now when I squat, if I don't really bias my quads and like think about it, which you can do more on a Smith versus a barbell, my glutes just start taking over. And I think and my adductors as well. And I think that's, adductors. That's why they're kind of pretty well developed versus my quads too. So that's why I've been sticking to these kind of machines like the Smith squats, pendulum squats, the hack squat, even the belt squat. I can bias my quads so much more. So I would be tempted though to introduce a barbell back squat again, because I do love that lift. Like it's a fun lift to do because it's like, I don't know, you just think of someone like Tom Platz and so
and it just feels savage, to be honest, as well. When you are able to use much load. So let's just say Kaifu West, for example, when he's deadlifting. I mean, if I were to deadlift that much, I would probably also deadlift the entire time and just like show off, because it's just amazing. I mean, come on, he's a beast. What I want to say is, that one day, I think it was on the 24th, I had such an incredible arm pump, especially on the right side, but more so the forearm. And I'm not doing kind of any additional forearm training. And I don't know if you've ever had it, Steve. I don't know exactly the term for it on English. Music notch or so? Is it called that? Musikknochen, it's called on English. So when it is that you are, I don't know, your elbow, there's of course a lot of a thick nerve running through then the elbow, right? And if you then stimulate it, or you, I don't know, bump against a corner or so, then it kind of can be quite painful.
We call it the funny bone.
Fun. All right. Then the funny bone. This is something that I've now learned. All right. I had it. I was then in the shower, right? So a couple of minutes after then the pump. So, and still my forearm was kind of, it was so hard and tight that I was then kind of going up like this, touching my head. And I was actually then aggravating the funny, the funny, what was it again? The funny bone.
Funny bone. Yeah.
Yeah, the funny bone. Have you ever had that the pumps in the arms were so crazy that there must have been such a severe amount of pump and tightness around the arm section that it then causes the funny bone just by that movement alone to start being aggravated?
No, I've never had that.
It was crazy.
What do you know? Was it something different you did for that session?
I think I just had an incredible pump, probably due to then the amount of sodium that I still had.
Sure. Yeah.
I would very much assume that this had to do with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I've never. It's. I don't know if you've heard this. What used to be a good gauge for like an arm workout, I think it was like if you could. Oh, what was it? It's like, can you touch your shoulder? Well, yeah, that's what it was. Could you? If you could touch your shoulders, you hadn't trained your biceps enough. You had to be able to like be like this, be like, my biceps are so pumped, I can't touch my shoulders. I don't think I've ever. I mean, I probably have at some point. I can't remember the last time. I need to try it. Next time I train my biceps, I'll see if I can touch my shoulder. But right now, I'm like, this is so easy. I can't imagine never being able to touch my shoulder.
Have you ever seen that video where someone was walking around on a fitness expo and putting a sticker on the back of big bodybuilders on a very specific spot on the back that they couldn't grab because their arms and their back was just like too thick, and they put just a sticker on it and they were just like, what is it? What is up there? And they couldn't reach it.
That's so funny. Oh man, I can't imagine being that large where I could not touch parts of my body. Absolutely absurd. So I guess for you, it's just you're back to normal things. New Year's, you don't have any plans for that. It's just like a normal night for you guys. I mean, when you have family and young kids, I imagine it kind of has to be that way.
I'm just happy that I wasn't getting sick. That's the main thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially after Katie caught it like severely. I thought like, all right, she's now having it, when in reality, she's the one most of the time being able to avoid it. I would probably then catch it, but probably I had it. But as I told you guys, and last week I was still sniffing around here, you know, maybe I had it already and I was able to kind of manage to fight it off, which is kind of good.
Yeah. This time of year as well, it's kind of like you can get little sicknesses and they're just about to pass and then you get a new one. So you're just kind of like a little bit sick this whole time.
Yeah.
Like I'm still sniffing
what about
a little
you
bit.
now? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of gone, but I'm still sneezing in. Like I'm not feeling bad, but I'm not 100%. I think being back home will lead to me feeling very good soon, because my sleep will actually be really good and I'll get back. My body would just be happy back into routine.
Yeah,
so that'll be good. I had a question. I've forgotten what it is now for you.
But let me throw it back to you then. Any other plans now moving into the next year then?
So
I mean, the last time that you've talked about kind of rate of progression is that you've been edging in on the highest amount of scale weight as well. Any kind of, I don't know, ideas about the next mini cut maybe or something like this? Yeah,
so I believe my plan was after this meso, I'd enter a mini cut. So then I was hoping I might touch close to 200. Well, yeah, I was never going to be at 200 because I like the rate of gain 0.25 to 0.5 or 1 to 2% per month. I always try and like to push for the higher end, and I never hit it. I'm always at the lower end, whatever I do, because it's just, again, like my issues. So I'm going to be at the lower end. So I need to breach 195, which I'm at now, where I've been sitting for a couple of weeks. Because if I do that now, I'm at a new high for this off season, because my previous mini cut that I took a number of months ago, I was 195. That was the highest. So I want to get to like 198 or somewhere around there would be quite nice before I do another mini cut, because it's progressive. It's a new body weight high. I think that makes sense. But I'm also tempted, if my appetite is holding to an extent and I can still keep gaining and I'm feeling all right, just to take like a bit of an active recovery and then go into more massing and keep pushing up versus a mini cut, because it's so hard for me to get to this like body weight sometimes and to push through it. I think it's worth sticking it out a little bit, because I think it's uncomfortable for a reason, but it's not uncomfortable so much as I feel terrible. So long as my well-being's holding, so long as my appetite is holding okay, I just have to the hardest thing for me right now is, it's kind of like a job and you've got so much work to do, if you don't start at the start of the day and efficiently and get it done and prioritize it, if you fall behind any jobs, you're not going to get it done by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what eating is for me right now. If I'm not on top of it from first thing, I fall behind a few hundred calories. It's so hard for me to get those up. So yeah, with like yesterday traveling, I was at least 300 calories below where I needed to be. And that was coming home and having like a big bowl of cereal, and we stopped at some services. I had a bunch of hot crust buns and stuff. It was just so hard to, because we're traveling. We left at 3. We didn't get home till 11. So we were traveling for flipping ages. I wasn't prepared enough, and it was hard to be prepared enough to kind of take care of that. So hopefully now I'm back in routine. It should be okay. So maybe a mini cut after this mesocycle. So that'll be February time. Or I'll try and keep pushing for some more mass, but I'll just see how I feel.
Steve, I'm curious to know, I know that you're very much on point most of the time. And I also know that if you're behind on calories for the day, that you are very good at making it up by the end of the day and managing to still get into your caloric targets for the day. On days like these, though, are there any kind of instances where you just accept it and say like, all right, today I'm like 300 calories behind maybe, and instead of getting home at around 11 and then chucking things down and feeling uncomfortable during the nighttime, you just leave it at that and add those calories back in the next day?
That's exactly my plan. So I knew I had like 1,000 calories or something to get in at like 11 p.m. I wanted to go to bed. I was like, I wanted to have an amount of food that could get in some extra calories because I had the appetite for it, but not so much that was going to impact my sleep negatively. Yes. And there's not like a obvious what that is, but I just put in 100 grams of cereal with some milk. I ate that and I was like, if I eat anything more, I'm going to feel a bit sick and that's not going to be good. Yeah. So let's cut it here. That's 300 calories I need to make up over the next few days. 150 calories extra over 2 days. Shouldn't be too big a deal. What's that, like a slice of bread or something? I can make that up. So absolutely. Because I think in the past, I would have been, it's kind of similar to training where, I don't know, you haven't got enough time to get your training session finished. So maybe you're so a stickler for getting everything done. You squeeze it in, but the quality is low. And so that's not a positive thing. So the same with this, where, I could have shoved in more food, but that might have pushed my sleep to be worse and not feeling as good. So it's better just to let it for the next days. I think that's where that kind of maturity and experience comes in, where you can be that flexible, where it's not such a big deal. But I'll definitely make up those calories because I have to. Like some people, I don't know, they might just accept a day at maintenance or whatever, but I'm like, no, I need to pick that back up over the next days. Yeah. So there are times where I get into this sort of situation. It doesn't normally happen though. It's like you said, like normally I can stay on top of it and I can be all right. I just need to prioritize eating plenty early on, especially in those days where I'm out and about. That's where it gets more challenging.
No, absolutely. I was just curious to know how you're handling those situations, because I know that they are happening very rarely for you. But at the same time, I think then it's more of a question of priorities. What's probably more important, getting good sleep in or interrupting that sleep because you are, I don't know, sweating big time because you had so many carbohydrates to chuck down? I think it's probably then better to go with the other option of like getting some quality sleep in and getting then a little bit of additional calories in here the next day.
Yeah. Another example I can just think of very quickly that was kind of similar to this was when we had the RP guys over for our seminar and we had that dinner out and I had saved a certain number of calories for that dinner, but then based off my kind of estimations of how much I've eaten, I was like, I'm still under by quite a bit. I'm not going to get home for a long time. And one of my clients ordered dessert, and this was way ahead because he was there, and he ordered like a cheesecake and he was like, I'm cutting right now. I can't eat this. And it was just left on the table. And he was like, anyone can have this. And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want to have that much fat. I wouldn't want to eat necessarily a whole cheesecake right now. But actually, that's kind of perfect for hitting my calories for the end of the day. It feels so wrong to eat this, but I just ate it. And that might sound weird to people, but it goes against everything in me of like what feels right to do because of like nutrient density and like micronutrients and like that much fat or whatever, because normally I'd go for higher carbs. So I was like, actually that calories is the king here. That's what I need to achieve. I've already hit protein. don't be a dickhead, Steve. You're going to undershoot your goals if you don't have that. And that's going to provide you a nice like 600 calories that's going to hit your numbers. So I had it and I was like, man, I need to do stuff like that more often where I think this is where having sometimes a coach or putting your coaching hat on helps, where it's like, all right, think about priorities. What do you need to do in this situation? Best I think to do is actually eat that fucking thing.
That's exactly what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks and months now, Steve. It was that by the end of the day, if I didn't manage to really get my calories in, instead of then chucking down something that is also then very much having a high amount of volume, I was just chucking down something that it was kind of adding calories, but doesn't really fill me up more than I'm comfortable with. Because I don't like the sensation of just being absolutely stuffed, and you're already stuffed from the normal meal, and then chucking down something that, like, I don't know, another pudding or so, you know, something that I couldn't see myself doing. And I don't want to, because I don't really want to stretch that stomach and all that kind of stuff uncomfortably and feeling awful afterwards. And what I did was, we have chocolate at home. And whenever I have like calories left by the end of the day, and it was the dinner time, and I knew, all right, after that dinner, I'm not going to eat anything, because I don't really want to artificially now introduce more meals than necessary, and then also kind of have it too close to bedtime and so. So I'm just now weighing things out and having and filling up the rest of my calories coming from chocolate. Right? And even though that it may then end up being a little bit higher on fats, the good thing is that I'm never really exceeding my fat targets anyway, because I'm just someone who has a lower fat intake normally. At the same time, it's like you. It's just more than about the calories, but having an option that allows you to have a lot of calories without additional an additional level of fullness or so, or feeling uncomfortable or anything alike. You're just kind of adding 200 kcals without really feeding it, because that, what is that? Those 20 grams or 40 grams of chocolate, you don't really feel then on top of it all. And it is such a convenient way of then adding calories on top of it. And it's not that I'm saving the macros in order to have that, because I really want to make it clear to the listener that, because I know that some people are like that, they are convincing themselves that, all right, I have more calories to play now so that I can have the chocolate. It's more like a plan B in order to get to my calories, and not the other way around, in order to get in some chocolate or so.
It's similar. And even like actually the perfect tool in a mass when you're in this situation where you just need more calories, you don't want extra volume, sauces, because it makes the food easier to get in, and it's just like an extra 100, 200 calories where you're just like, oh shit, I didn't even notice that, because it's just coating what I'm eating already.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. And also for me personally, it had to be something like chocolate, because most of the time, the sole carbohydrate foods are still very much bigger in volume overall. And that's why you often have to revert then back to something like this. And it was such a convenient and easy way of still sticking with your meal structure, sticking with the food volume, not feeling uncomfortable, not over or forcing yourself to eat. Basically, it was just like a small addition that makes you help getting to your caloric targets for the day. And then you still had a very reasonable approach over the entire day, without actually then once again adding some meals, even though that you really don't feel like eating.
Yeah. Pascal, with you mentioned a mini cut in the new year as well.
Yeah.
Is that something that's in your short-term future?
Right now, of course, you have those days where you're thinking, I should be mini cutting. But I think that this is also one of the reasons, or that one thing that always held me back, because I just have to come to terms with that in an off season, my upper body is just not looking that great. And there are people who look great in the off season, and then there are people who don't really look great in the off season, unfortunately, right? And once they're getting to lean levels, hey, it looks actually quite decent. And I'm just someone probably who's more of the second option of like not really looking great in the off season, and something that I have to come to terms with if I really want to make some further progress. And that's why throwing in a mini cut now doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense to me. And I think that as long as I don't really hit something like 82, 83 kilograms, I don't really think that I should be doing it, to be honest.
Yeah. I think based off our discussions and everything, I think that I agree. I don't think a mini cut makes sense for you right now, based off what I know. And it's funny you mentioned some people not looking the greatest in their off season. I think that there's got to be tons of reasons for that, but ultimately it matters how you look on stage for a competitor.
Yeah.
So it actually, and like, who are you trying to look good for right now? It's not like you're an Instagram model or something. It's like you just do it for yourself, really.
Yeah.
So it is just coming to terms with that. But yeah, I've seen some competitors where I look at them in the off season and I'm like, why do you look like this in your off season, but you look so fucking good on stage? I'm like, I would prefer to look worse in my off season and better on stage. But I think unfortunately or fortunately, it depends how you look at it, but I'd prefer to look better on stage than I do and worse in my off season. But I actually think I look all right in my off season and not so great on stage.
I don't know for me though, because I don't have the same ambitions such as yourself, Steve.
No, for sure.
Like the competitive pursuit of becoming a pro or so. And that's why I would rather, I think, to be very honest, look better in the off season than on stage. Because the stage is more like a very much a byproduct for me. Whereas lifting is something that I do and I would like to represent that on a daily basis, where, I don't know, when I see you or when I saw, for example, Alexander at the gym, you guys just look massive. And when I then hug you, you also feel tight. And for me personally, when I touch myself, I feel like soft and the skin is kind of moving around. And that's why there's definitely some truth to it. Things that you've said, like, who are you looking good for? Because no one will actually see you topless most of the time. And I think it's more a sensation of just knowing that you do look good and can look good if you want to.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same when you're rich, like truly rich. I don't think that you tell everyone. I think those people who do this are very rare. Maybe they are the extroverts, or who just became rich overnight and now they need to share that with everyone, or just, I don't know, letting everyone know. I don't know whether this is truly justified. And most of the people who are truly rich, they still kind of drive a normal car, have a normal house, right? Because they know how to manage that, and they know that they are rich. And it would be kind of the same when it comes to a body, like a proper off-season body. You don't need to show everyone, but knowing that you can would be just great, in my opinion.
And I mean, it's the same. I don't know. You could say the same with, you've got a long-term girlfriend or a wife. Why do you need to take care of how you look? But I know if I have a fresh haircut, or if I don't shave for a long time and my beard's just looking a mess, or if I wear clothes that just, I don't feel like I look good in it, my confidence goes to shit and I don't feel good about myself. So yeah, it stretches a bit further than even just bodybuilding and competing. Yeah. And probably if I had it the other way, maybe I'd want it the other, like the grass is always greener. So it's like, where do I really want to go? Yeah. But I do think for you, not mini cutting and pushing a bit higher, not that I've seen how you're looking recently, but I can kind of tell from you talking about your body weights and what's been going on. Performance sounds like it's good. No real injuries at the moment. I kind of like hold on to that whilst you can.
And the time will come once again anyway, where I'm then cutting again. Especially, I think summertime is something that I've figured out for myself is always way easier for me to cut through, simply due to the warmth. You're way more outside, or it's easier to at least be more active and all that kind of stuff. And and this year or next year will also then be accompanied by the wedding. So I want to look decent for this. I don't really want to be peak bulk at that time. So the time will come sooner than later to then cut down a little bit again. And if I then end up being in the territory of, I don't know, 77 somewhere between 75 to 77 kilograms and looking good then and feeling good, that would be great, right? But also then, of course, in a more improved manner.
You want to feel good for your wedding. Because it's even little things like going on holiday, peak mass. I've done it plenty of times. I just don't enjoy it as much as if I'm leaner and my appetite is better and I'm feeling better in myself. It's just not as good. So particularly for a wedding, which is like, I don't know, one of the most important days of your life for sure. You want to be feeling your best and feeling confident and well.
Exactly.
So I completely respect that. And it'll probably work into if we do compete in, I'm going to say if still, because we don't know what happens. It's still a long time away. But if we do compete 2024, being a bit leaner at the end of 23 is probably going to bode well for that.
Yeah. I think that's why pushing maybe up to 82 2 kilograms, 83, then starting something like, not really just a mini cut, it would probably be more something like an 8 to 12 week cutting phase or so through then the summertime, pulling back to somewhere around kind of what I just said, 75, 77 kilograms, then gaining all the way up to the winter time, and then starting a contest prep at around maybe 80 kilograms, so that I have somewhat of like 10 kilograms to lose. Would be sounding to me, at least right now, like a very, very good plan.
Yeah, that sounds solid to me. If we if we're competing in 24, I have to start. I mean, it's a bit early to plan already my timeline, but I prefer to plan as far in advance as possible where it makes sense. So I might have to think about that.
Cool. Yeah, we're coming up on time. And next week, we're then going to talk about your plans, because then you had a little bit of time to think about it then and kind of schedule things out. So guys, once again, also, I want to take the moment another time to say thank you very much for another year here with us. By the time you're listening to it, I think it's coming out on the
second.
On the second, it's then already the new year. But of course, thank you very much for a 2022. So far, the 2020s haven't been the greatest of years or the best decade for us so far. I hope it's now improving slowly. The global situation from an economic perspective, from everything basically is improving. Hope you guys are staying safe though. I really do hope that your year has been going well, and then that the next year is going well as well. And as always, that you're here with us is very much appreciated. It's now from 2023, it's the 6th year starting that we are doing the Improvement Season podcast, which is crazy to think that we each and every single week for like 5 years straight, we have recorded this podcast now, and also the other podcast, and that you guys are here with us. It's just an absolute privilege. And I say just cheers to you guys. And for an upcoming 2023, leave a like, leave a subscribe. Happy New Year, and also Merry Christmas once again. And thank you very much for being here with us.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Pascal. 6 years, that has flown by. I want to say thank you to Pascal for being here with me. We wouldn't be doing this without one another. So I just want to say thank you to Pascal. And again, thank you to you guys listening, because again, we wouldn't be doing this if we wouldn't be doing this if no one listened. We'd probably still talk. I don't think we talk as much as we do about the stuff that we do. True. And I really enjoy it. And I enjoy interacting with everyone listening, your questions, and just knowing that we have people who are interested, and we somehow bring some pleasure or some light entertainment to your day, or some education, hopefully sometimes. It's nice to know that that's happening. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you stick with us for another year and all to come.
Cheers. Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.